Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Dillon.
And welcome to the show where we review books and their movie adaptations. One of us reads the book and then watches the movie. The other one watches the movie and then reads the book. And then we give you our recommendation for which order gives you the best experience.
And today we're talking about The Dark Half by Stephen King. And you read the book first this time.
Well, before we get started, this is a fan recommendation.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this was a comment in. We'll put the comment up. I think this was a comment from The Green Mile.
It must be because we did Stephen King's The Green Mile, and yeah, we had a comment saying, "Hey, here's an underrated Stephen King book-to-movie adaptation." And we love getting comments with recommendations in it. We always bump those up because we have a long list of stuff we're interested in. But if somebody recommends one, we'll bump it up on the list. So
absolutely,
yeah. Comment any book-to-movie pairs you think of below.
Yep.
And
so
yeah, you go first.
I did read the book first. This is a book, The Dark Half by Stephen King, published in 1989. It tells the story of Thaddeus Beaumont is a writer, and he, as a child, he had these headaches, and he had to get an operation on his brain, and then some weird things start happening later, in his life that call back to some of that stuff.
Yeah. 1989?
1989.
Okay, not long after that, the movie adaptation came out in 1993, directed by George A. Romero, director of other horror movies, famous ones like the Night of the Living Dead series, and he did Creepshow, which was a collaboration with Stephen King also. So this was directed by him, and it stars Timothy Hutton as Thad Beaumont and George Stark. It stars Amy Madigan as Liz Beaumont and Michael Rooker as Sheriff Alan Pangborn, who I recognized from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, he's also in The Walking Dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so getting into it, do you want to talk about the book first? Because you got it that way.
Yeah, I'll talk about the book. This book, I think, suffers from one of my criticisms of Stephen King. Criticism of many of his longer books, not all of them. 11/22/63,
I think is great. That was a page turner. Very good.
The Stand is great, but some of his longer works tend to be, in my opinion, too long. He spends too much time going over and over, rehashing the same internal turmoil that a character might have.
Yeah.
That is very much the case in this book, over and over again. He's great at describing things, like when he's describing Stark, like covering up his sores and all the grisly stuff that's going on with him, the murders and everything. Those parts are thrilling. It's too much junk in between.
Yeah.
That's what
I'm glad you started with that. That's pretty much what I thought. I watched the movie and then read it. And I thought the book was too long. That was like the first note I wrote down, is just it's too long. And I totally agree, because I liked 11/22/63. That's a longer one, but it's like a page turner.
Yeah.
This one wasn't so much, and I had not heard of this one before we got the recommendation.
No, I had known about it, but only because it's on this list. I've been trying to get to all the Stephen King books that are referenced in a book that you got me for my birthday like several years ago. And it's The Science of Stephen King. And I'm trying to make sure I read all the books first before that. This is on that list.
Okay. Because that book explains, like, scientifically some of the things that happen in Stephen King books, and you want to not be spoiled and read all those books first.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
But before that, I hadn't heard of this one.
Yeah, so to me, I got that book, but I didn't read it all. But I hadn't really heard of this one until we got the recommendation, and now I'm not really surprised that I hadn't heard of it, because it doesn't seem, just from the Stephen King books I've read, it's not near one of my favorites. So I can see how it could fly under the radar, because also the movie is, not that.
It's very mediocre. Yeah, it's cheesy. You can tell it's kind of a lower budget kind of thing.
Yeah. Was it a TV movie or was it?
I don't know. I don't know that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Mm-hmm. But there were some good things about it. I thought the visuals were pretty good for the time. George Stark kind of deteriorating, especially toward the end when the birds are pulling him apart. And
that's true.
A skeleton.
Yeah, that was probably the best part of the movie. I mean, visually at least. Visually,
I also like the dream he has where his wife is like porcelain. Oh. And then she like shatters and it's a skull. Maybe it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
The visual at the end was good, but also I really did not like the way it ended because it just ends there.
No, the ending of the book is way better.
Yeah, there's an epilogue.
Even the events, they change around so many events in the movie mm-hmm. in a way that is not as good. Like it's so much more of a mystery in the book, specifically when they're investigating because Stark kills someone and they think that it's Thad, right? Mm-hmm. And they're investigating immediately, and then he immediately has an alibi, an airtight alibi, which makes you go, "What the heck?" They removed that from the movie. In the movie, it was like he could have possibly done it, but in the book, it's like. And there's no way he could have done it. Yeah. What the heck is going on?
Yeah,
you know?
It makes it a more compelling mystery, and it makes the sheriff more believable.
Yeah. How would the sheriff not arrest him? Yeah, that's right. I do remember that. In the movie, it was like, why isn't he should arrest him right now.
They believe it's him.
Evidence.
He has evidence, basically, like his fingerprints, but he's like, I don't know. I kind of believe you when you say you didn't do it.
I know. It doesn't make any sense. It's so much worse. And that happens with the end, too. They change, some things like Pangborn gets to the house first in the book, and those kinds of things at the end make the book better too in the end.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I think made the book better. About the ending, Pangborn gets there first, he's kidnapped, and also that the sheriff kind of helps them hide the evidence at the end. That was a big, important difference because the movie, the birds just come in and pick him apart and pull him away. And then it's over. Ends.
Yeah, that's right.
They just fly off into the distance into like some weird colors, and they're looking at it, and then it just ends. And I'm left thinking like, okay, all these people were still killed. Like, how are they not going to pin it on that now? That George Stark is gone.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there was a crazy ending to the movie. I also liked. On that same note, the book explains the birds way better. The whole psychopomps thing.
Yeah, it does.
Like, he goes to the college and he's kind of, he's doing his research, and then his colleague explains the symbolism of the birds. Yeah. And that was like a relief to me after watching the movie and thinking like, okay, the birds came and took him. Like, who cares? What does this have to do with anything?
That's funny. I read this first, so I knew what was going on, but I didn't even think about that.
I thought the birds were ridiculous in the movie. I'm like, what are they birds for?
Yeah, the closest they do is they like kind of show them like with the hospital, like the very beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it shows it throughout. Like it starts with the birds, like it's part of his headache. Yeah. And at the hospital when they take out the tumor, the birds fly into the hospital. Yeah. But it never says why or like what that's about. And just another thing about the concept in general, I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, the fact that George Stark is his removed tumor that grew into a human, but he's also his writing alter ego. Because their minds are connected?
Well, yeah, I don't understand necessarily. It was obviously it's a very loose idea about how he becomes a real physical person. Yeah, that's not explained at all. He just comes out of the grave where they photographed his death. Yeah, if that didn't exist and it was just Thad, like as an alternate personality turning into Stark, that would be more believable.
That would be more interesting. Yeah.
I mean, and interesting. Yeah, and interesting too.
Maybe he just thought that would be too close to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or something.
Probably, yeah.
And just on that note, we both read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Uh-huh. I didn't really like that story.
It wasn't my favorite from
that
collection that we read.
That had Frankenstein, Dracula, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah. Introduction by Stephen King.
Yes.
So we know he read it. I didn't like that one so much, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So this is kind of like, it's already that same concept, but it's like 5 times as long. So that it's just a less interesting Stephen King book to me.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have anything else to say about either of these?
I think I touched on the main things I wanted to say.
We seem to be pretty close to what we're thinking, so I'm curious to see if our scores are about the same.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear your scores, and you read it first? So.
I read it first. I gave the book a 6.2, and then I watched the movie and gave it a 5.1.
Okay. I was more harsh, maybe because I started with the movie. I gave the movie a 3.9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I read the book and gave it a 4.6.
Okay. We do have a little bit something I noticed while we were doing it too, at least with my scores and now with yours too. Mm-hmm. We had some harsh scores the last few episodes.
Yeah.
On either one or the other or both. We had some harsh scores here.
I do. I was thinking that I've been harsh this season. Yeah. But I also just gave The Great Gatsby book a very high score. Yeah. So it's not everything.
Yeah, no, I've given high scores too. I was just noticing we have some. That's true.
We have a new one in our top 5, but yeah. Sometimes we're harsh.
Anyway, let's average our scores here for these two and see how they add up to what the critics and the audience at large says about these.
Yeah. All right. It looks like our average for the book, we give it a 5.4.
5.4. Pretty low.
Not good.
But the movie, we give a 4.5, even lower.
So these are both kind of on the cusp of going below half and above half, you know? Well, the readers over on Goodreads give the book a 3.8 out of 5.
This is what I was talking about with the Stephen King fans, too, right?
Yeah, because that's like a 7.6. Yeah, Stephen King has a lot of diehard fans. And also with this one, I feel like more of his fans will go out of their way to read The Dark Half as opposed to maybe one of his more famous ones.
Yeah, so and then you have less other people who are less fans of Stephen King. Less of them will read this book at all.
Yeah, exactly.
But that being said,
we think it's overrated. Yeah.
Sorry,
King heads,
whoever recommended this.
Oh yeah. Still appreciate the recommendation. Yeah. It's fun to do it because I hadn't heard of it. Well, on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie has a critic score of 59%. And an audience score of 39%. And we gave it a 4.5.
We gave it a 4.5. So
we're in between.
We are, yeah. That's almost enough to say it's properly rated as not a good movie.
Yeah. Interesting. The critics gave it a higher
this is
score.
Another one where these movies generally were like the production value seems low. Mm-hmm. And they seem like they're not done well. I always think the critics will like it worse. Less than the audience, but there have been a couple of surprises this season with that.
Yeah, maybe it's something about the horror genre. I feel like it gets maybe it's because it's more...
George A. Romero.
Oh yeah, because it's an iconic director. They're like, oh, he's a genius. Yeah. Okay, but we could say the movie is properly rated because we are in between. Okay, now we get to our final recommendations. Which one should you do first? What do you think?
I still think read it first. Yeah, and I think you can read it and watch, and I think you'd be fine. Yeah.
I'll say the same thing. I mean, yeah, read it first. If you're going to read it, I would say read the book first, and then maybe you'll like the movie more because of the explanation that's in the book. And yeah, so I will agree with you for this one, right. Even though I was pretty harsh on both of them. Yeah. Well, now let's see where both of these land on our overall ranked list.
Which is now 44 total things. Yeah, we do. So we even to get to the book, which we rated higher, we're going to go all the way down to number 40.
Yeah.
Underneath the Love in the Time of Cholera movie.
But at least beating both of the Interview with the Vampires. Okay.
The movie, however, is right below both of those at number 43. The second to worst thing that we've ever had.
Yeah.
The Dark Half movie.
That makes me feel like I was a little harsh on this movie, but it's because we both gave it a low score. Yeah. You gave the other movie a higher rating than me.
That's true.
For Interview with the Vampire. So yeah, again, sorry to the commenter who recommended it. Sorry we didn't like it, but we still appreciate you commenting and giving us the recommendation.
Yeah, and again, if anybody else has any recommendations, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, there are lots of Stephen King books. So even Stephen King ones, there's a lot that I haven't read that have been turned into movies. Comment your favorite one below. And if you're looking for something else to read, we have some books of our own available, which you can find in the description box when you're on your way down to the comments. That's where you can find the links to those. And next month, we're doing another one. What are we doing next month?
Next month, we're tackling another William Shakespeare. We're doing King Lear and the TV movie adaptation of King
of
Lear,
Texas is what it's called.
Starring Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, that will be a fun, exciting episode, our Shakespeare episode of the season.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that. And as for the dark half, viewer, you tell me, which is better, the book or the movie?
Let us know in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends to tune in too.
You can click another video now. Thank you. Bye.